Chasing is an energy born from a sense of lack. And anything that stems from lack sends out a signal that eventually repels what you desire. Have you ever noticed how the more you crave something, the more it seems to slip away? The more you wait for a text, the longer it takes. The more you wish to be seen and understood, the more invisible you feel. This isn't because you're unworthy, it isn't fate punishing you. It's because your energetic field, more honest than words, quietly broadcasts, I am not enough. I need, I lack. You don't attract with thoughts. You attract with frequency. Even if you appear composed and calm on the outside, your energy tells the truth. And your reality responds accordingly. And as long as your frequency is driven by clinging, fear, and desperation, even unconsciously you are repelling the very thing you want. From there, you don't attract because you're trying. You attract because you're radiating. The shadow isn't just the negative, it's everything you suppress. If you chase love out of fear of loneliness or success from insecurity, you're acting from that shadow. You act confident until you make the unconscious conscious, say affirmations, or read spiritual books, but if your core vibration comes from fear or lack, you no longer need to chase. You know who you are, and what's meant for you stays not because you chase it, but because you become it. That is what you will manifest, not what you want, but who you are. It will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Until you face the real motivation behind your actions, you'll keep reliving the same story. But inside, you're checking your phone. It began gently, then drifted. Again and again, the same pattern: distance, confusion, and quiet heartbreak. The ego wants to control, possess, it demands truth. And prove, the soul simply is, craving a response. You need to shift your frequency from seeking to presence, from need to trust. When that happens, what you desire begins to come not because you've earned it, but because you've aligned with it. If they don't respond the way you hoped, anxiety creeps in. You never say it aloud, but your energy speaks for you. And they slowly withdraw not because they dislike you, but because they feel the pull of a draining energy. This isn't about desire, it's about vibration. True magnetism happens when you stop needing, stop forcing, stop asserting your lack, and instead return to your center. I need someone else to make me enough, and the universe responds not to your wishes, but to your being. The theory of consciousness and vibration. Some energies shift a room without speaking. A person enters, and everyone turns. Others, even with their best effort, carry a weight that turns people away. Old stories: who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakens, inner children begging to feel worthy. But no one can give that to you unless you've already started giving it to yourself. This isn't about actions, it's about energy. Jung may not have used the term vibration like today's spiritual circles, but he understood that consciousness is a living magnetic field. Jung said that our world becomes a replica of our inner wounds. Reality doesn't reflect what's true, but what's unresolved. She was independent, intelligent, and self-aware. After a painful breakup at 34, she took all the right steps: therapy, meditation, journaling. On the outside, she looked whole. When your energy is born from anxiety, craving, or fear, it sends a clear message: I am not whole. I am afraid. Jung's analytical psychology shows us that desire rooted in a wounded ego activates the shadow. This is projection, the unconscious casting parts of us onto the world. Imagine starting a new relationship, Jung said. You can visualize your dream life. Jung distinguished between the ego and the soul. When you live from the soul doesn't require validation. Vibrations rooted in lack are just fears and healed wounds, Jung said. You don't need to chase. Story 1. Carla seemed like the perfect example of healing. But every new relationship followed the same script. In a breakthrough therapy session, her therapist said, "Your energy isn't waiting for love. It's begging for confirmation." That hit her core. Carla had done all the healing not to release the past, but to prove she was worthy. She wasn't chasing a person, but a pattern, a need for someone to prove she mattered. She wasn't loving. She was waiting to be rescued. Jung said, we don't become enlightened by imagining light, but by making the darkness conscious. Carla had to confront the belief that she wasn't whole unless chosen. Carla kept emitting, "I'm not enough," and so she kept attracting distance. Her actions were not autonomy, but control, a silent plea masked as healing. And energy doesn't lie. The universe doesn't reward checklists. It responds to truth. Once she saw this, she shifted. She no longer tried to force love or prove her worth. She began to ask, am I loving, or am I waiting for someone to validate me? This was the beginning of her vibrational transformation. Her energy stopped begging. She chose herself. When you do that, the world doesn't need to choose you. It mirrors your self-acceptance. Jung's mechanism of the inner world: positive thoughts can't fix what's hidden in the shadow. Every experience we live through comes from our psychological energy field, the frequency we carry deep within. That's energy. Jung said the psyche is made of emotionally charged images, and those images project outward like a signal. Individuation, Jung's ultimate process of growth, is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you really are. She began checking messages obsessively, reading between the lines, and feeling anxious with silence. Desire from the ego comes from emptiness, and the more it's suppressed, the more it sabotages your vibration. Have you ever met someone who smiled but felt off? The ego may wear masks, but the frequency reveals our story. Even when we claim to be fine, the energy we emit tells the truth. To become whole, we must accept even our darkest impulses, not suppress them. When you live from the center, you don't need to chase or prove. You simply exist, whole. When you operate from lack, you're led by your unhealed ego. Not because of a new partner, but because of new awareness. Story 2. Natalia thought she had healed. She was strong, reflective, and open to love. But a new relationship reawakened old patterns. Her therapist said, "Your mind let go. Your energy didn't." That one sentence changed everything. Natalia had done all the right things, but deep down she was still sending the old message, "Make me feel safe." Jung wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Healing doesn't mean pretending to be better. It means facing the fears still quietly shaping our actions." Even without words, Natalia's energy was pleading, "Don't abandon me." That's not love. That's survival. Until you make the unconscious conscious, you'll keep repeating the same emotional cycles. Natalia saw this, and in that moment, her vibration began to shift. The difference between control and surrender. Have you ever told yourself you're letting go, only to keep checking your phone minutes later? That's not peace, that's control wearing a mask. Control feels like strength, but it's rooted in fear. Jung said the ego seeks to control what the soul has not yet embraced. You think you're being logical, but you're managing uncertainty with hidden fear. You begin to surrender not out of weakness, but from true presence. You don't need to act from fear, you can act from clarity. When you stop reacting, when you stop chasing certainty, surrender means you trust that what's meant for you will come. You stop forcing, you start being. It's when you show up without needing anything, and mind all exist in this moment. Power not because they were loud, but because they were fully there. That is true magnetism, of presence. The presence isn't passivity. It's deep alignment, detachment, not self-improvement, but self-reunion. Presence doesn't come from effort, it comes from practice. It's when your emotions, body, pause, ask, am I acting from fear or presence? The miracle happens. Breathe, observe the impulse, and continue the journey back to your true self, where nothing needs chasing, because everything you need is already within. Think of someone whose presence changed a room. Your presence matters, and we're glad you're here. If you find yourself drifting, come back. Put down your phone, feel your breath, reclaim yourself. When silence feels unbearable and you reach for reassurance. Presence is when you stop becoming and start being. Jung called this individuation. Let your fullness call in only what resonates with your truth. Vibrational. Finally, the path forward. Vibrational detachment. Create silence. Whisper, I do not chase. I do not cling. I am present. This doesn't mean indifference. It means not betraying your truth to keep a connection. It means recognizing when your energy is chasing, when anxiety drives you to act. You think you're making choices, but it's your wound acting through you. Jung said unhealed parts can hijack your mind. The key, instead of reacting, practice this daily. Over time, your body begins to believe it, and when you stop chasing, stop clinging, you no longer attract by desperation. You attract by alignment. You don't need to say the perfect words or prove your worth. You become a field of clarity, of wholeness. Let your presence speak for you. Let your silence radiate. Choose yourself. That is the vibration no one can resist. If this resonated, leave a single word: present. If you found this message powerful, subscribe to Stoic Trench and join others on this deep path of inner truth, healing, and self-mastery.